Welcome to the Flourish with Neural Retraining podcast. I'm your host, Madeleine Lowry, a neural retraining specialist who works with anxiety, sensitivities, and chronic symptoms and conditions. In this episode, Kendall joins me to talk about mind-body healing for chemical sensitivities. Kendall came to see me after suffering with mold and chemical sensitivities for about 9 years. Her sensitivities had evolved to the point where she felt trapped and highly limited in her life. She couldn't buy new items for her home, reacted to fabrics and carpet, and eventually couldn't even sleep in her own bedroom. Kendall experienced debilitating symptoms including brain fog, dizziness, dissociation, disequilibrium, insomnia, fear, and hypervigilance. What makes Kendall's story particularly powerful is that she had tried numerous other brain retraining methods and modalities without lasting success. These included EMDR, neurofeedback, allergy shots, a mold specialist, detoxification protocols, hypnosis, and other brain retraining programs like DNRS. She knew intellectually that her sensitivities were a nervous system association, but the underlying issue was a subconscious pattern that other methods had not been able to shift, leaving her feeling deeply stuck and hopeless. In this episode, Kendall will share how finding this advanced neural retraining approach called MAP marked a turning point. We explore how MAP offered a different approach that goes many layers deeper by working directly with the subconscious mind. If you are someone who has multiple sensitivities, or if you are a highly sensitive person with chronic symptoms or conditions, and you've tried other brain retraining methods and failed, or are feeling stuck, hopeless, or trapped, please listen. Kendall's experience offers a profound beacon of hope. Her story is a testament that subconscious programming is just programming, and it can be changed. Let's dive in. All right, so welcome, Kendall. I'm so happy to have you join me for this conversation. I'm always so grateful when people accept my invitation to come on to be a guest on my podcast. For every 8 or 10 people that I ask to come and speak about their, what gains they have realized through this MAP process, only one person says yes. So it is rather rare for people to be willing to talk about their experience. And so, of course, I am so grateful that you are willing to take the time to have this conversation with me today. So, Kendall, you found me because you were suffering with mold and chemical sensitivities for a long time, about 9 years. You had tried a number of other things, including EMDR, neurofeedback, allergy shots, and other brain retraining methods. And then you found me in a Google search. Can you tell me what life was like for you at that point? How your life had been impacted, and also, what you were looking to change by engaging in yet another method for retraining your brain?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really powerful for me to be able to share all of this on a podcast because I've listened to so many podcast episodes of people sharing success stories with different retraining programs or things that they've done. And I've always hoped and hoped and hoped one day that'll be me getting to share that something finally worked for me. So it's really, I think that's part of what makes me want to come on here and share is just to continue to be that beacon of hope for people. But yeah, over the last 9 years, I have dealt with mold and chemical and kind of environmental sensitivities that seemed to kind of mm, build and evolve over the years. And yeah, so it's interesting that I found you through a Google search. Many of the things that I tried to, heal, I remember exactly how I found them and where I was. But what's so funny is looking back on this, I don't exactly know, like, even what search terms I had put into Google. I tried to look back in my search history to find it because I was like, "How did I get here?" It kind of feels like it was a bit serendipitous, which is really powerful too. But um, yeah, I found you through a Google search with just the right terms. And I think what stuck out to me from your page is that it had all the right information I needed. You were someone who worked specifically with sensitivities and allergies. It was through that kind of neural retraining, mindset, or approach, but it was working with you directly in sessions. And I felt like I really needed someone to guide me through this process because I had tried so many different things. So having someone to be supporting me through it felt really powerful. But to give you a sense maybe of where I was health wise, and in my life at the time that I found you, I had kind of learned to live with these sensitivities. I felt lucky that they hadn't got to a point that I know some people get to where they feel like they have to move out of their homes and live in the desert and some of these stories that you hear. But I did feel very limited. I was at the point where I felt like I couldn't buy my sensitivities had gotten so kind of spiraled out that I couldn't buy certain new items for my house and furniture. Um, I was sensitive to certain chemicals and fabrics, so like I bought some new bed sheets and I couldn't use those, and I was sensitive to carpet and carpet adhesive, and it got to the point where I wasn't even able to sleep in my own bedroom at my house because I was reacting to that. And so after dealing with this for 9 years, I had learned to kind of live with this, but I couldn't, like, can't live my life like this. So I had some hope still, but I was definitely feeling pretty hopeless after moving through all the many things I had tried, and I can share what those are. But so anyway, it all kind of came together right when I needed it.
Yes. And so, how would you describe what you were seeking to change? What was your life like that you knew you couldn't live this way anymore? And it became imperative that you try something else.
Yeah, yeah. So some of the symptoms that I would get would be like brain fog
Mm.
and kind of this like dizziness and dissociation and really just feeling like disequilibrium and on edge and insomnia. And of course, it creates a lot of fear and hypervigilance, which adds to the cycle. I had done a lot of brain retraining work before this. And so I had done my best to work on the conscious part of not reinforcing the fear around these items or around having sensitivities, but there was still a subconscious association in my nervous system. And I knew this because things that I would think are non toxic and healthy and organic that I felt like I could have in my environment would still affect me, or things that I didn't even know were in my environment that I couldn't consciously know. I could feel my symptoms arise. And so it was this sense of, I don't feel good physically. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel so uneasy. I don't want to live a life where I'm so limited. I don't want to not be able to, be unable to sleep in my bedroom. It's becoming too widespread. I'm going to make it my life's mission to heal this. I don't feel satisfied with living this way. But yeah, I would say like the brain fog was one of the physical symptoms that I just, it made it a kind of unbearable to live this way.
Mhm. I I also have noted in working with a lot of people with multiple sensitivities that for the person who develops multiple sensitivities, there seems to be almost an acceleration and a compounding as we get older. The sensitivity reaction seems to generalize to more and more things. And so life gets smaller and smaller. I mean, I was this person myself, and I can remember the fear and the panic of
Mhm.
realizing that every few months I was reacting to something new. The silicone
Yeah,
earplugs I was using to swim. My
right.
ears would be like weeping and scabbing over from that silicone exposure. Or I, with the fall, winter, we eat a lot of butternut squash. And I can remember peeling butternut squash, and my hands were just breaking out in welts and, just a terrible allergic reaction. And it was like, what? This too, and it was,
Yeah.
it was just each decade of my, as each decade of my life went by, I was starting to recognize this is starting to happen faster and faster. And where is the end?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
what will I be left able to eat or to do,
right.
right? And that's this really scary feeling that obviously motivates a person to think, I have to figure out I have to get to the roots of this,
Yes.
before it completely controls my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was my experience too. I think the word I kept using when we first started working together was trapped. I just felt so trapped because similar to you, it felt like it started to be things that were so silly. Like I bought a new set of mixing bowls and I was like, if I can't have mixing bowls, a new set of mixing bowls in my kitchen, how is this going to work? I want to move into different stages of my life. I want to have kids. I want, right? And if I can't, find a way to coexist with certain things, this just won't work. And so that, of course, brings up a sense of panic. Even when I know this is just a nervous system association, if I don't feel like I have a grasp of how to shift it in a timely and effective manner, there's only so much hope that can come.
Yes. And I remember when we started working together, it's about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
I remember you saying, like, do you think this can change? Do you think this is going to work? And I mean, we had the free consultation and I heard your story and I was like, well, yes, this sounds like so many people that I've worked with. I believe that brain retraining, this type of advanced neural retraining where we work with the subconscious mind directly, definitely has the potential to work. Now, how fast it happens, is very hard for anyone to say, right? Because these things can be quite complex or they can be simple. Some people are seeing shifts after just a handful of sessions, 2, 3 sessions. Some people, they need more like 6 or more sessions. And it's until we start working together, we don't really know what the pace is going to be or how or when the breakthrough is going to come, which is why I've created a sensitivities program so that people can do more sessions on their own at a lower price point, right? So that they can leverage what we're doing in live sessions. But I wanted to have you talk a little bit about how this method of brain retraining, because you had tried other methods, right, felt different or was different or maybe had a different approach. How would you describe for people who've or like, well, I've tried brain retraining before, I've tried these programs before, I've tried EMDR before. How would you compare or, what would you say is different about what we've done together?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I'll share for a moment what I have tried, and then I'll speak to what this looked like for me. But yeah, I tried everything from when I first had these symptoms, which, seemed to be set off around the time of a mold exposure in 2016. But I tried everything from like allergy shots, and, Western medicine allergist to like a mold specialist and a detox protocol and hypnosis and neurofeedback and DNRS and another brain retraining program and EMDR. And, all of those things I think can be really helpful for people. I don't want to discredit or take away from any of those healing modalities. And I feel like for me, those would have taken so, potentially so much time and so many layers to get where I have gotten with MAP. So, what felt different about our work together is that, I know on our first phone call in our consultation, I said, if I don't know exactly, specific acute traumas or adverse childhood experiences that I have, can this still work for me? Because I was, worried that, if I don't know exactly what my perfect storm was and why exactly my nervous system had become so reactive, can we still do this method? And you said, yes, as long as you can connect to the emotions that you experience around all of this, we can start right there. And I think what really worked about MAP for me is that since we're asking the superconscious or the subconscious to really do this work, I don't always need to have perfect clarity on what are the like emotional burdens or experiences that have impacted me. It's helpful to have a sense of them and to feel them, but the mind and the subconscious are helping you and I know where to go and what to work on and what my body has held on to over the years. So it feels like it goes so many layers deeper than any of those things I had tried in the past. And it seems like we're able to use like the wisdom of the body and the mind and the nervous system to guide us, uh, so that because I think I needed help with that because I wasn't able to fully grasp why exactly my body might have held on to certain experiences and things to kind of create this state in my body.
Yeah. Yes. So that's helpful, right? That through this process, and so in a just to explain, right, for people who have never experienced this before, in a map session, we select a topic that we are going to be working with. Typically, these sessions are 90 minutes long. We do them over Zoom, and we are tapping into it's a method for tapping into the subconscious mind, for really harnessing the power of the subconscious mind, which knows all of the patterns. And sensitivities are patterns, right? It's a reaction pattern. This apple used to be able to eat it, no problem, and now you take a bite out of the apple and your lips start to itch, right? Just like that's a kind of a typical sensitivity reaction people might experience and be able to relate to. So that is a pattern, right? A pattern that has changed. You didn't want it to change, but it did change. Suddenly, apples now make your mouth itch, and you don't know why. You don't know why this started. You don't know why it changed. But there is some experiences, some associations, some memory structures in the subconscious mind, and the mind knows its own patterns, and so we can utilize the power of the subconscious mind to find and neutralize or break down, right, the pattern itself, so that you can be free of the pattern or you can establish a different pattern. So in each session, we are endeavoring to resolve another layer, because often, if we've had these sensitivities for a long time, or if we have many sensitivities, there can be many reasons why it was created and many reinforcements over time. And so it's like strata, I kind of think it is like strata, like layers and layers and layers. And we just have to start going one layer at a time. And so that's why I'm saying that for some people, 3 sessions and they're noticing a change. Other people, 6 sessions, other people more, right? Because we don't know how many strata there are, and we don't know what kind of resistance there might be to letting that go, right? Letting that pattern go. This is something I very often see with, for example, chronic illness or chronic conditions. We identify so much with something that itself can be a source of resistance. So even people who say, well, I've tried hypnosis, right? That's supposed to work with the subconscious mind. And yet it didn't flip the switch for me. Is this going to be any different? I'm not a hypnotherapist. I can't speak to that modality, but I do know that having had clients who are hypnotherapists, that they see this work as being quite different, because we are uncovering and also changing, fixing, I guess you could say. It's this process of like things coming up to the surface that either we can recognize and release, or we can make changes to. It's an iterative approach, and it does seem to get to levels that maybe are not as easily done with some of the other methods, that people have tried before. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, coming into this, I was like, okay, well, if this can be cleared in 3 sessions, that would be amazing. And I was so eager. And I did, you never set that expectation up, but just knowing that it can work so quickly for people, who wouldn't want that? But it took more sessions than that for me to start feeling the shifts that I had been longing to feel. But you were really helpful in helping me understand that it really needs to come layer by layer by layer at the body's own pace. And I think that helped. It was validating, and it makes sense now for me to see that it did take me several sessions to start feeling the momentum, but that makes sense. Why some of these other modalities I really didn't move the needle, because I think for my body and for my nervous system, it it was buried pretty deeply. Like there's been many layers we've had to peel back in order to see the patterns start to break up. So I remember you'd say brick by brick, and that really helped me. I was like, yes, it's just brick by brick, and that truly is how the process has worked for me.
Mhm. You mentioned DNRS, which is it is a method that many of my clients have tried before they come and find me. It is a method that I learned, that I used in myself, that I taught in workshops, a simplified version of it. And it informs a lot of what I understand about, the limbic system and how it works, and, the whole brain science, I guess you could say, behind the pattern, this kind of self-reinforcing pattern that is a sensitivity cycle. A lot of people try DNRS, they do it for months, they do it for years, and maybe they have some wins right at the beginning, but then they kind of plateau. Or maybe they have some gains and then they kind of lose them. And I tell people, because there's a lot that is said about, you just have to stick with it. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep repeating the scripts and the visualizations and the affirmations. And it's an hour a day, every day, for months and years. to make to break down the pattern or to make the sensitivity reaction go away. And I tell people, I wouldn't stick with it that long, right? I would say if you aren't seeing shifts in 4 to 6 weeks, then you need something more, right? That is a clear sign that you need something more. Because, when I taught this method and I would teach a group of people, about 70%, 70 to 75% would do well just with that, what I now understand to be a basic method of neural retraining, right? It's almost like we are hammering in our intention, right, to be done with these sensitivities, with these reactions, with these symptoms. We're telling our mind over and over again, don't send the signal anymore. Visualizing what life would be like if we were free of all the sensitivities. But it's very, very repetitive and very, very, I don't know, it doesn't get at the root causes. For some people, it is enough to get them back on track, to solve their sensitivities. But for other people, 25 to 30% of the population, I would say, in my estimation, and this tends to be the people that have the more significant history of trauma, it just isn't enough. There are too many humps and bumps in the road to just lay down a new road on top and be like, yeah, we're done with this.
Right.
Just stop, just put it away, just, end it. We don't want this anymore. It's almost badgering,
Yeah.
the nervous system and the subconscious
Yeah.
mind. And for some people, they don't respond well to that. And so for them, it's necessary to start to excavate layer by layer, like we were saying
Yeah.
before, to allow, whatever that is that needs to come up, that needs to be acknowledged, that needs to be seen, or that needs to be neutralized, to do so. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it is a process, right? So this is not about repeating scripts and affirmations. It's not about practicing, practicing, practicing. There isn't, it is not, I would say it's not an effortful process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, except that you're doing reintroductions on your own between sessions. It is more of a process of allowing, holding space for, kind of respecting, whatever comes up. Both the clients and the practitioner, I often tell clients during a session, this is not a time for you to figure it out. You've been trying to do that for so long. And if you could do that, you would have done it already, right? This, when we talk about the subconscious mind, it's not a logical mind. It is an associative mind, and it associates things that you would never think were related to each other.
Right.
And you just have to let things bubble up and just observe. Your only job is to sit there with your eyes closed, breathing slowly, deeply, and gently, hearing what I'm saying, and just observe what's coming up. Just like in a meditation, where you're watching that thought come in, and you're like, oh, there's this thought. Oh, yes, okay, and I can let it go, just like a cloud in the sky. But I see it. It's like that. You're just allowing things to come up. And for some people, a lot of things come up. For some people, not so many things come up. For some people, it's about memories and thoughts and words and people. For other people, it's more a feeling in their body. But whatever that is, it's important not to push it down and be like, no, I don't want to think about that. No, I don't want to go there. No, I don't want to recognize. I don't want to feel that. If we are doing that in a MAP session, then you're defeating the purpose, right? This is a time for your subconscious mind to start revealing itself, and we just need to hold space for that and respect it, and be like, oh, okay, I had no idea that was there, but here it is. Now let's deal with it.
Yeah.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about what that process was like for you.
I was so relieved that this took a different format than the typical brain retraining. Not that I don't think there's a time and place for the scripts and I've gained certain things from that method, but I was so relieved that I get to sit back and be and allow. And the way that, like you said, it seems that everyone experiences MAP differently. And the way that I found I experienced MAP was um, as we would ask my body and brain and my superconscious to come up with things, I'd really feel things in my body. So I'd get a lot of somatic or kinetic sensations. So, like a tension in my neck or a feeling of something weighing on my stomach or my chest or even that gripping in my arm that we worked on for so long. And these aren't always symptoms that are my number one things I'm experiencing around my sensitivities, but almost felt like they are my body's way of letting me know what was they were like our entry points into my emotional world. And I think some other people experience more like visualizations and memories with map. That's what I was expecting at first, and I was like, why aren't I getting these memories? But I started to realize, yeah, I just gotta go with whatever is coming up, and as we'd follow it, we would really unlock some huge shifts. And what I started, I think, realizing through this work is that, and I've known that I'm a pretty sensitive person, like I identify as a, HSP or highly sensitive person. And I think because of that, my body and brain have just held on to a lot of different experiences and emotions. And it's just seemed like I've needed to have something like this to allow me to let go of things that I don't always know why or how I've held on to them. But in a map session for me, as we are working on a theme, as we're working on a sensation, as we're working on a memory, I can sometimes feel this. I feel like I'm in a very deep meditative state. And I know that because my eyes will be closed for so long and I'm never bored. It's like I go somewhere it's like I think I've called it a tunnel with you. Just feels like a little bit of this kind of relaxed, deep zone where I'm still very attuned to everything going on, but I'm content to just sit there peacefully. And um, I can feel shifts and sensations move throughout my body as we ask the superconscious to work through different steps. And I'll never forget one of our sessions. We were working on a memory where I had gotten injured as a kid. And it was like an injury that affected my tailbone and my like back and neck a bit that had kind of randomly come to my mind during one of our sessions. And that's something that MAP will do, right? It'll kind of bring up an association. And as we worked on that, asking my body to kind of release and work through that memory, it almost felt like, yeah, I could feel in my body. It's so hard to describe it, but I could feel in my body like just a sensation of a shift. It felt like a wheel moving inside of me. And that's when I really started to sense, oh wow, this is um, this is really powerful. So hopefully that's not a too long-winded of a way to describe what my experience of MAP is.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Thank you. Yes, because I do think people do experience sessions differently, and that's perfectly okay, right? We're each very unique individuals with a unique set of experiences and a unique way of processing things too, right? But seasoned practitioners learn how to work with whatever is coming up for you, so whatever that feedback is from you, and even if there's no feedback, we learn how to continue with the session because we're using our intuition really to help guide the session as well. So even if you aren't able to report anything, and I do have, a few clients like that, they just nothing to report, we can figure out where to go next. The practitioner is reading you in a way
Hmm.
that I think is also different from
Yeah.
these other modalities, because you're getting a little more help from
Yes.
from the practitioner in terms of helping you figure out what is this about? Where do we need to go next?
Yeah.
What thread do we need to be following in this session? Uh,
Yeah.
and even what topic? What topic do we work on
Yes.
today?
Yeah.
You want to talk a
And I
little bit
really
about that?
needed that. Yeah,
Mm.
I really needed that. And I think that's why EMDR, I think it's one of the reasons EMDR wasn't working for me around this issue is because I didn't always know exactly how to describe what it is that I needed to be working on. So being able to work with the sensations in my body and being able to have you help guide me, collaboratively and using kind of both our intuition, felt like it really made this possible.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. And so, and we aren't done, right? We've been working together about 6 months. You've done about 12 sessions. You did the sensitivities program for maybe a month, and you can talk about the difference between our live sessions and that, but you found that you weren't really a program person, which is perfectly okay. I mean, I create the programs for people who would like that opportunity to work with things more on their own, but not everyone's a program person. Some people just need the one-on-one attention, deal with all the specific and unique aspects of you and just,
Hmm.
delve deeper, deeper, deeper. So that's fine. But yeah, we've done about 12 sessions. And so what would you say are the positive changes you have observed from this?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm excited because since we last talked, there's been even more things that I've been able to integrate into my life. So I have a whole list that I've been eager to update you on. So around I felt, some light emotional and mental shifts early on. Number one, I think just we're working on that hopelessness feeling in the beginning was really important for me. And um, just an overall kind of lightness that I'd start to feel emotionally. An important shift in the beginning too mentally was feeling just stronger resolve and like this deeper understanding that this is truly an association that my body has created, which is something that I've known for years. I've known ever since I found DNRS way back in the day, kind of like 2 years into this journey, I guess. But it's almost like I needed to know that on a deeper level. So that was something that was helpful in the beginning. Around the third session, I had a surprising physical shift where I've always had really sensitive skin, especially to ear piercings and different, metals. And that randomly shifted, and I was like, "Well, it could be coincidental, but, something feels different very quickly about that." And then I think as we were peeling back the layers, I wanna say maybe it was around, like, session 7, 8, 9, where I really started to feel a shift in, those like the ability to have some of the items I had been sensitive to in my environment. I think around session 6 or 7, we had actually worked on this tension that I get in my back and my neck, and that really shifted and has gone away ever since, and it was kind of related to maybe some emotions around hypervigilance. But around session 8 is when I had a breakthrough with being able to have certain objects or spaces in my environment and introduce them with ease. I had been working on trying to reintroduce items for such a long time, and I felt like, well, clearly there's something I'm doing wrong in these other brain retraining programs or otherwise, where I could sometimes get myself to reintroduce to something, but it would take so long and so much work or certain things and not other things. But around session 8, I finally felt, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like when you reintroduce something where you can sense, oh, I just after a few times of being willing to have that item in my environment, I'm okay. And so I can sleep in my own room now, in my own bed now. I'm sleeping a lot better. I've been able to bring a bunch of new items into my home, those mixing bowls that I mentioned, and much less sensitive to synthetic fabrics, and I can wear a lot more clothing, and items of furniture that would bug me. And if I travel, I adjust to those environments a bit faster than it used to take me. And I feel like between sessions 10, 11, and now 12, the speed at which my body will reintroduce items has just skyrocketed.
Okay. So are we talking about days, hours?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right now it feels like 2 days, and they're not awful days. I just kind of persist through maybe an initial symptom, and then I'm okay. And that's a huge change. Whereas, like in the past, I could maybe try to reintroduce like a sweater that was causing a reaction for me, but it would take like maybe a month. It's just like, and I could only do it with certain things and not other things. And so it's real traction for me.
Yeah. And that's lovely because as you said, you can see a different future for yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I remember when we first started working together, you were like, but really, can we change these? Can we change this? Will this be effective for these sensitivity reactions? And I thought, well, yes, these are just patterns in your brain. Like I I believe this because of, what I've seen in the work that I do, but I understand for the person who's living under that I don't know, just feeling controlled, right?
Yeah.
Um, by these reactions and almost like these rigid rules that our brain has for us about like what's safe and what's not safe, right? It can feel like, well, this is just me now,
Right.
especially when it's gone on for a long time, right? This has been happening for 9 years. This is just me now. And I've been living this life so long. I don't actually, I'm really questioning whether this could ever change, right? Kind
Yeah.
of where you were when we started working together. And thank you for being able to kind of start to trust in the process. And I do remember that at some point you were coming to sessions and you were like, I think I believe now. I believe now that this
Yeah.
can change. It wasn't like you'd gotten all the way to your goal yet. You're still not quite there yet, but something had changed in you and you knew on some level
Mhm.
that this is programming and this programming can change.
Yeah.
And if I'm willing to just stick with the process, we will get there. It took longer than maybe you would have liked it to take.
Right.
Me too, right? I'm always happy to see, when people are starting to feel shifts early on, but, we have to honor your system and the pace that it is setting for us. So, I always like to explain to people your subconscious mind is in control every session. Your subconscious mind sets the pace. The practitioner, is not doing something to you. The practitioner cannot force a change that your
Mhm.
mind body is not willing to accept yet. And it's just telling us it's necessary for me to take, I can't let go of this yet because of this and this and
Mhm.
this and this, right? And
Yeah.
so this is basically what dictates the flow of our sessions is almost like we're asking the question again and again,
Yeah.
do you feel safe now around these items, and your body mind is like it's still grappling with this, right? It's a pattern that's been there for so long and it needs to be visited a few times, several times for it to start to recognize that you are safe in the presence of whatever
Mhm.
and that you don't need to have those reactions. And one of the reactions was that you couldn't sleep, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So when you said you're able to sleep in your own room, which is of course a positive since you were reacting to things in your room, but also that you're able to sleep better, right?
Mhm.
Despite introductions of new things like that. That's so important also.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It really was layer by layer and honoring that, I think we had even kind of worked on things that I might have taken on that weren't even mine, emotions, experiences. And so it felt like we had to go at the pace that my body would allow.
Yes. I think, you mentioned before that you see yourself as a sensitive person, that you feel that you fit the definition of a highly sensitive person. And 95% of my clients are in that, they're sensitive, they're empathic, they're intuitive, they're highly sensitive, whatever. And I do feel like sensitive people are just more prone to take on things that aren't their own. We take on other people's feelings, or we take on patterns and responses that we see, or yeah, we just take on things that aren't ours. And that is a factor that I often see. And again, like I feel like it's just one like little, maybe not little, but thing that can come up in a map session that I think is just one of many things that we've explored in our sessions that aren't really touched upon by some of these other methods that you've described trying
Mhm.
before. So I
Mhm.
do feel like with map sessions, there's a lot of ground that we cover, a lot of factors that we explore, or that come up in sessions, I should say, that reveal themselves. And again, it's all part of untangling, right? This like
Mhm.
very complex and deeply knotted underpinning of the whole sensitivity reaction process, which we could put under the label of, fear, feeling,
Right.
safety and lack of safety, right? It could be the general theme here, but whatever that is that contributes to that, it's like unpeeling it one layer, one strand at a time, until we get to a place where we can respond differently. So is this a process that you would recommend to other people? For what reasons, and why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would recommend it to people. I it seems like it can be helpful for so many things. I personally would recommend it to anyone who has allergies and sensitivities that don't seem to be responding to other things. But, even for traumatic memories, for emotional issues, for highly sensitive people or empaths that feel like they've stored a lot. And but of course, yeah, like I think about the people in this world with chronic health issues that don't seem to resolve. And I think that this method is so powerful. I think you have to have an open mind coming into this and have to be at the point where you're able to understand, or maybe not understand, but just be open to the fact that our nervous systems and our immune systems and all the other systems in our physical body are impacted by our nervous system and our emotional body. And so coming in with some openness to that, I think can be helpful, but sometimes the process itself helps open, I'm sure, people's minds to that. But I think it could be so beneficial for so many people. And so anyone who's feeling stuck in their healing journey, it's something to try. It's something to see if it can get you somewhere. I feel like I believed so deeply that this could be something that could help me, but after having so many experiences where a brain retraining program didn't get me to where I needed to go, it started to just feel like this discrepancy between, like, I so deeply see the nervous system role in this, but I can't get my nervous system to move. And I think that's why I felt so stuck. And so, even before I started to feel the results, just doing MAP helped me start to feel like, oh, I know my nervous system can shift because I feel us doing it in the sessions. I
Mhm.
think it really helped that discrepancy start to shift. So yes, I would recommend it to anyone.
Yes. And I think, hearing you say this again, right? I think often where we start with MAP sessions is working exactly on that, like that
Yeah.
resistance, right? That feeling of helplessness or hopelessness, that feeling that nothing and no one can help me. My body's betraying me, or I'm running out of time, right? These very common thoughts that people with chronic conditions have, chronic symptoms, sensitivities, whatever, have, that keeps them in a stuck place, a place of not even they're not even willing to hope anymore, right?
Hmm.
Because their hopes have been crushed too many times.
Yes.
And I completely understand that. But even just working on that, right,
Yes.
can set you free in a way so that you can move forward, right?
Yes.
Because when you're in that trapped, stuck, hopeless, powerless uh, place, it's like you're sitting in the bottom of a hole or the bottom of
Yes.
a well, and you cannot figure out how to get out.
Yeah.
And even though people may be offering you, like, oh, have you thought of this? Have you tried this? Have you heard
Right.
about this? Have you tried listen to this podcast, this book, this practitioner, whatever? It just feels overwhelming. Like I
Yeah.
cannot try one more thing, right?
Yeah.
I hear this so often, I even in the free consultations that I do, so many people are in that place because they have hoped and, not had their hopes be rewarded. And they've gone through the cycle so many times and they've invested their resources and their time. And it's almost like being paralyzed, I
Hmm.
can't even imagine trying something else. And yeah, so that alone, right, will keep you stuck right there
Yeah.
because if we aren't willing to try something new, if we aren't willing to try again, right?
Yeah.
The saying is try again. When we aren't even willing to try again, we just feel
Yeah.
too lost and too hopeless. Even just working on that mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to myself that I tried again because, of course, I felt that way. Yeah. On that initial phone call with you, where I was like, am I really going to put myself out there to get the rug pulled out from underneath me again? And I don't know what higher power helped me just push through, but yeah, I'm so glad I did, even if it's just to work on that mindset, even if that's all, even if that's the only thing I gained, it would have felt worth it. So yeah, I'm so grateful for MAP. Yeah, it's changed my life really. And I'm like, I can't wait to use it on all the other things I'll ever need, I'll ever need it for as well. And yes, still layers to go for me around the sensitivities, but yeah, it's really changed everything for me.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Kendall. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and share your story and all of your insights. And this has just been a wonderful conversation. I think a lot of people will benefit a lot from hearing your story.
Thank you so much, Madeline. I so appreciate you, and I'm so excited to get to share. So,
Lovely. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for the Flourish with Neural Retraining podcast. Please listen again and remember to follow us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, or Pandora. Check out our free courses about the MAP method and all of our MAP programs, including the Thyroid Healing Program, at mapforhealth.us, or schedule your introductory MAP session at tcneuralretraining.com. Until the next time, be well and flourish. Content of this podcast copyright 2025 by Twin Cities Neural Retraining. Music by Barbara Ben.